Thank you guys very much. I'm really excited to be here. I told a few people we were in Boone. We came in on Friday and drove up to Boone, have seen part of the state. It's gorgeous. My daughter has a friend who lives out here. She's been several times, and I sent her some pictures. She's like, yeah, isn't it beautiful? I said, it's like stunning. I mean, because we're so used to desert, and it took me a little while when I moved there. The cactus, they're nice. I mean, I can appreciate the beauty, but then I come here and I'm like, oh man, this is gorgeous. I can imagine this place in the fall. I'm sure you guys, the trees, everything. So thank you for having me. It's fun to be here. The heat is not any different than Arizona. It's different, but it's not any worse than Arizona, so that's good. So it's really fun to be here. I'm gonna start off really quick. I'm just gonna show you guys, let's see if I can do this right. Yes. Oh, I have to know which one. So this is my family. This is I have 3 daughters. So the 3 daughters are mine. The 2 guys are son-in-laws. And our first granddaughter, who was born in, she'll be 2 in September. And there she is again. But then we had 2 grandsons come in the last month. So totally fun. They were 4 days apart. So I think it's going to be fun for them to grow up together. But anyway, that's just us, a little bit about us. But I'm going to start with doing an activity that I do called musical chairs, but I'm going to use it to help us get to know each other. And maybe you guys already know each other really well, but it'll help me get a perspective on some of the things you do. So these questions are going to be, I'm going to ask questions, and you are going to get up and walk if they pertain to you. So I call it musical chairs or stand up if. If you have a room where you really can't have kids move and walk, and like I've had some people do it all the way around the outside of their classroom, or they've set up, I used to set up chairs in the middle of my classroom and do it there. But if you're in a room where it really can't happen, you can just say stand up if. So you guys can choose because you have, I've been looking at the space, and normally I would have you walk around your tables. So if you think you can do that, then stand up, you'll have to push your chairs in when you do it. But here's what happens. If the statement refers to you, it's true about you, then you're going to stand up and walk. If it's not true about you, you just stay seated, okay? Does that make sense? Okay, so I'm gonna use some music here and for you guys to do it. And let me just get this all set up. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to get up and you're going to walk. So you can either, do you guys want to do stand up? Or do you want to try to walk around your tables? Stand up? Okay. All right. Okay. So you're going to get, if you've been teaching more than 5 years, get up. And just walk, you're just going to stand up? Okay. But you got to move. You got to dance at least, right? Okay. Okay, so part of what I like about this is now you can kind of look around and see who's been teaching more than 5 years. I want to do something because I feel like this group, it's going to be interesting, kind of like when you're at a wedding, right? And how long have they been married? How many people have been teaching more than 10 years? If you've been teaching less than 10 years, sit between 5 and 10, sit. All right, how many of you have been teaching more than 15 years? Wow, okay, 16? 17, 18, this is when I sit in the classroom, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, wow, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33. What have you guys, how many years have you been teaching? 40? Wow, how many of you been teaching? 40? Whoa, nice job. That is so fun to do. Okay, so yeah, if I include my time in college, I've been teaching over 30 years. But I did take some time off when my kids were little and stayed home with them. But I got you engaged. You were paying attention to what was going on. So that might be when stand-up is better. And we're going to talk about a little bit. But part of what I've always done is like, this is the rules. So I've done it with little kids who, so when I was, my last last iteration of teaching were little kids, first, second, and third grade. But half of our class was on IEPs, and several of our kids had severe behavior issues. And so I remember I talked to a teacher, I said, I want to do this with your class. She's like, you can't do that with my kids. They'll be wild. And I said, just let me try. And they got up, and we did musical chairs. We did the actual chairs. And I said, okay, guys, this is the rules. We're going to get up. You're going to, all of the stuff about how to do it. But then I said, but there's no pushing. There's no touching other people or any of that kind of stuff. Well, one of my kids, actually the same one who said he's getting better at reading, who had a whole lot of stuff going on in his life, got up and poof, the kid in front of him said, you're just making the choice. You don't want to do it. That's okay. You don't have to do it. Come and sit right over here. And the rest of us are going to do it. Then I would add one more question. And then I came over and I said, do you want to participate now? Yeah, never again did that child sit out of musical chairs, because he loved it. So he knew that if he knew that the rule, I was serious. And I don't want to keep them out for a long time. I'm not going to punish them if they don't want to do it. I always said, you do not have to do it. I'm never going to force you to do something. But if you want to do it, then you have to play within the rules. So I think you have to do the same thing with junior high kids. You have to just say, that's fine, you don't have to do it. Now, I would do, depending on the age group, I would probably have an assignment for them. That's fine, here's the question. You can just write out your answer, or you can participate with us, whichever one you want to do. And then they can make a choice. And it's their choice. And they may not want to. That's fine too. But, yeah. So we talked about that. You definitely connected to people. Both you guys said both of these things. And really, it was my college students that were the first ones to say, I learned so much about the people around me. And I was like, oh, I'd never thought about that before. So here it is. My elementary students begged. Like, they would come in. I remember my 6th grade boys come in and go, can we do musical chairs today? Not today. We're going to do it, though, again, but not today. But they loved doing it, and then they would kind of sign same to each other when it was something they connected with. Okay, so in one of my college classes I did it, and it was Exceptional Child, and that was one of the times that I was aware enough to say, hey, students, give me feedback on the actual activity. And they said, musical chairs was my favorite because I asked them about a whole bunch of things we'd done, but they said it was my favorite because I got to see other students' backgrounds and connect to them. And the questions were not these, some of these were a little more intentional to help you guys get to know each other. The questions for them were, have you ever gone to a school that's not in your neighborhood? Have you ever been in a situation, in a group where you kind of just felt like you were the odd man out? This is how, and then I would say, this is how kids with disabilities often feel. And we would talk about that. So, but they saw how it connected with the others. Musical chairs, they said it surprised me because it helped me learn a lot about disabilities. It connected our stories to their stories, and it opened my eyes. And another one said students could really relate with other students, and they did it for unity. Yes. So I'm going to give you another example of how I really directly connected to content. Here, one of the things it does is it activates, sorry, I didn't know where I was at in my slides, activates background knowledge, helps the brain work smarter, and increases retention and recall. So that whole connecting piece that you guys already mentioned, it really is helpful for our students. Plus, at the same time, they're up and moving, so the blood's flowing to the brain, which increases engagement. So we're doing two things there. They're connecting and they're moving. But let's talk about how you can use this in your classroom. You can help students connect to something in their life, to a story that you're about to tell. You can guide students in connecting new content to their background knowledge. And you can provide a way for them to learn about each other, like what they did over break or what they did over the summer. Okay, now, here's another example with content. You guys don't have to stand up for this, but you're welcome to. Okay, this would be an example of how I would do it with story. Have you ever gone for a walk in the woods? If you've ever gone for a walk in the woods, you would walk. By the way, when I do this with my students, and you can tell us what you did, but when I do it with my students, the first time I would say, stand up and walk if you have blue on. Stand up and walk if you are wearing shorts or something so that they could just be really, they could connect to that and understand how they know when to walk. So, have you ever gone for a walk in the woods? You guys can raise your hand, yeah? Okay. In this story that we're talking about, somebody goes for a walk in the woods. Have you ever sat in one chair to only find it uncomfortable and move to another one? Has that ever happened to you? Yeah. In the story, the person tried several different chairs to get comfortable. Have you ever accidentally broken something? Someone said, in this story, somebody accidentally broke a chair. Have you ever fallen asleep accidentally? In this story, somebody falls asleep accidentally. Now, when I read the story of what? Goldilocks and the Three Bears, they're going to say, oh, I remember when I broke that glass or whatever. So that's a way that then all of a sudden they're engaged in whatever story you're doing. So you can do it with content. You can do it with whatever you're doing. But the connections, that's how I make those connections, by asking the questions and then telling them that's going to happen in the story. Does that make sense to you guys? Any questions about that? Okay. What fairy tale we're talking about? You guys got it? Okay, what I want you to do is take a minute and I want you to think about what you need to do to prepare for this, because it is an intentional preparation, especially when you're connecting it to your content. So thinking about something that's happening that will connect to them personally, that might seem abstract. So when you're planning, what do you need to think about? What will it help your students do? And what subject, what might you use it in? I think you might have notes in your notebook on this to fill out, no? In the spiral thing. Is that? Yep.
It's a thing, but there's not.
Right here.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, can I hold that up for a second? Okay, so this is in your spiral notebook, if you have it, and then you can record the stuff on that. Boop. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move on to how many people have heard of the forgetting curve? Okay, well, in 1885, a German psychologist came up with something he called the forgetting curve, and basically it says that without reinforcement, almost everything we do will forget. Did you guys know that? Does that make sense to you? Yeah, it's kind of common sense, right? So we're still dealing with that today. So there was a research study in 2022 that analyzed it was a meta-analysis, and analyzed a whole bunch of studies on learning, memory, and cognition. And they basically said you need to think about how to elaborate on information, how to rehearse information, retrieve information, even partial retrieval helps. So that's kind of what we're going to be talking about a lot, is we're going to use movement to elaborate, rehearse, and retrieve information. And what I found in my research is that when you're using movement to do that, you actually have to do less reteaching. So it really does help the kids retain the information. So, okay. I wouldn't be a good teacher if I didn't give you guys some objectives for today or for the next 2 days. So here they are. We're going to talk about, by the end of this workshop, you should be able to talk about how using movement feels as a learner, because you're going to do it yourself. You're going to be able to explain how it connects to stronger learning. You're going to be able to discuss important research. You're going to be digging into some research so that you know that you're using effective movement. You're going to describe, by the end, you'll be described 10 or more different ways to integrate movement in your classroom. And you're going to be able to collaborate with others to design and implement movement for your classroom. So I really want you guys to do some work by the end. Practice. I'm going to have you practice implementing one lesson, because how often do you go somewhere and you do it and then you come home and you go, oh, I'm not sure exactly how to do it. So I'm going to have you guys do that. Okay, so here's a question I have for you. When you see headlines like this, and now all these are legit headlines that I got. When you see these headlines, I want you to, there's no wrong number on this, but I want you to tell me on a scale of 1 to 10, how do you feel when you see those headlines? If you're anxious, and I was going to have you go sides of the room, but I'm going to have you, this will be the front side. So anxious to excited, up. Anxious to excited, 1 to 10. Anxious to excited, where you can be anywhere on the continuum. Anxious is in front, excited is in back. They're all normal responses. Okay, so we have a lot of people in the middle. We have some people who get really excited. Okay, that's good to know. It's all there's no wrong number. How you feel when you see that? Sometimes, they can be like, oh, sometimes I see a lot of headlines that make me go, oh my gosh. Okay, how about increases your control or it leads to chaos? Which do you think? Front of the room if you think the movement's gonna increase control in your classroom. Back of the room if you think it's gonna lead to chaos. Good, we need some good, honest increases. It leads to chaos feeling because it is a concern, definitely. And we have a lot of people who are thinking it's increasing control. You know that there's value in it. I mean, you guys wouldn't be here today, right, if you didn't think there's value in it. So your guys are a little skewed. Okay, I have a few people who are thinking it saves time. Most of the people are kind of in the middle, like it's kind of, yeah, and it might be more time consuming. Okay, yeah, good. All right, thank you guys for participating in that. Again, you get to see what people think around you. I just decided I'm gonna do this again at the end. I'm gonna see if it changes. I'm hoping it does. Okay, so that was just a scale activity. No wrong number. You could, no matter what you said, I didn't care. I want, kind of gives me some feedback, right, on where you're at. So I want you to think about how you can use scale activities in your classroom. So no wrong number where it's safe, or if you did rate it and debate it where they have to justify, like I'm going to justify why I'm here, which you might be talking about whether or not that was a good law that we wrote. What do you rate it and debate it? Think about things that are positive and things that they could have opinions on, and you want them to think deep enough to do that. We talk in my exceptional child class, which is not the only class that I ever taught, but I would talk to them about how important is inclusion. Rate it and debate it. Tell me, what do you think? What's important about inclusion? Should we have inclusion in special ed? Should we not have inclusion in special ed? There's going to be differing opinions. So, okay. So how could you use these in your classroom? And how long did it take? Not long at all. How could you use it? It's a good discussion starter, right? So they just get up and they do that. You have them go to sides of the room. And then you say, okay, let's talk about that. You said that I should do all the teaching. Like, how are you going to learn how to do that or whatever? But yeah. And it takes 2 seconds. But it makes them think about it. And also the students are making a commitment. So they're actually thinking about, like, I need to think about this for myself, and I'm committing myself to, I think it's chaotic, or I think it's calming, whatever. They're making a commitment. I think that you should talk more. I think I should talk more. I think it should be 50-50. But they're making a commitment, which just makes them more engaged. The elephant in the room. So the elephant in the room, you guys are pretty comfortable with some of this, but some of it you might not be comfortable with it. But when I've worked with teachers, they talk about it's a waste of time. Like they don't have time, right? Do you feel time pressure? The teachers that you work with, do they feel there's a time pressure? Like I have so much to cover, I don't know, I can't get through it all? That's what I hear from a lot of teachers. They think it's going to be chaotic. We talked about that. So they're worried about that. They think it's going to be time consuming because it does take time to think things and to plan things. And they think it's complicated and it might be confusing. So hopefully we're going to address those things. So first of all, we're going to talk about avoiding chaos. By the way, these are also AI-generated pictures. So before you start, I already talked about it a little bit, but establish clear expectations. So I think making sure your students know what's expected of them. I tell them things like, you've got your space. So identify your space. So even if you don't have very much space in your classroom, if they can stand up and they can look behind their space and they can identify their space. So make sure that their space doesn't, touch the person next to them. And then, like I said, prepare an alternative assignment. So for those kids who are like, pushing in musical chairs or, or running across the room when they're doing the, no wrong number or rated or debated, if they're doing something like that, just give them something else. That's fine. You don't have to participate. I don't want to make you participate. I don't care. You just sit down and just do the work here. It's your choice. And you might have some kids, sometimes you have some kids that really do feel that way, and that's okay for them. I don't ever want to force kids to do something. So those are the things to do. And then this was a huge piece for us. Before moving to the next thing, model calming down. So like I'm going to tell you this, take a deep breath. Then what do? Ooh. So you take a silent deep breath. Another silent deep breath. Okay, sit down. We learned that one through experience. Those deep breaths they can take are very loud. But just kind of helping them learn how to calm down and bringing them to that. And just tell them what the specific steps, and you guys know that as teachers. You know, this is what I want you to do next. You're going to sit down, you're going to pull out your math book and get a pencil, whatever it is. Just, you know, whatever it is, just be really specific about it, and it'll help. And I tell you guys some of this because I know a lot of you are teaching teachers, helping teachers. So just thinking about reminding teachers about that. Okay, so time is the other one. AI did a really good job on that one, don't you think? Elephant and time. Okay, time consuming. Initially, it's a little time consuming because you have to plan it. You have to think about it. But once you start doing it, which I can tell a lot of you already are, then it becomes more natural to do. So initially, it's going to take a little bit more time. Eventually, it saves time. It really saves time because your students are engaged. They're excited about what they're doing. They're paying attention. So I want you to think about that, and you'll leave with a whole bunch of ideas. So a waste of time, it's never a waste of time. Anytime you get your students up and moving, it's always beneficial for them. So don't ever think it's a waste of time. If it didn't work, it flubbed, it's okay, because it's never a waste of time to get that blood flowing to the brain. But we're going to learn and hear kind of some things that give you a bigger bang for your teaching buck. So how can you do things that'll be a little bit more effective, a little bit better for your students? So we're going to talk more about that. Complicated or confusing, that's what we're going to do about this time. And we're going to get rid of all the elephants. How many of you have heard of those elephants before? How many of you felt some of those elephants? Yes? Yeah? How many of you heard them from other teachers? Teachers that you're trying to coach? Yeah. It's nerve-wracking, even for, I mean, it's a, kind of a scary thing to do at first. And I'm going to tell you guys what I did when I did for my research, because this might be something that'll help you when you're working with other teachers. How many of you have heard of lesson study? Has anyone heard of lesson study? It is a professional development tool that was started in Japan, and it was really designed for math. This is the way it works, is that a group of teachers, maybe the 8th grade math teachers, get together and they plan a math lesson together using whatever they want, whatever strategy they want to do. Then one teacher goes and teaches that, and the other teachers stand around the classroom and they watch the students to see if the lesson they planned is accomplishing what their goal was. So it's not watching that teacher to see if they're doing a good job. It's to see if the lesson they planned works with their students. Then they get back together and they say, this worked, this didn't work so well. So they plan a new lesson. Another teacher teaches it. And they, again, look around the classroom and they watch the students. That's what I did for my research with movement. We got a group of teachers together and we planned lessons using movement. And then we got in the classroom and somebody taught it and everybody watched the kids. So you can imagine in your schools, think about this. Man, did you see Joey? Like he was totally involved. You know, I mean, they knew the kids. That after the first lesson was taught, that's when they bought in. They initially did it with me because I was their friend. They're like, you're working on your doctorate. We like you. Yeah, we'll do this research. You know, we think movement's good, you know, but then when they saw what it did to the students in the classroom and the students that they knew, they were like, oh man, this works. And then we tweaked and tweaked and tweaked with each lesson. So some of the stuff that I'll share today will be tweaks that we made, you know, like even the calming down, you know, afterwards, things that we figured out. But that they bought in so much that at the beginning of the year, they would have their kids get up and move every once in a while. I mean, because they're good, thoughtful teachers. By the end of the year, they were doing it in all their classes all day long because they just had to get comfortable with it and they just had to have some ideas. And then the ideas just flow. So it was really cool to see. The other cool thing was we actually all had student teachers, so all of our student teachers got to be part of the study too. So it was really fun for them because we'll do something later on that one of the student teachers did while I was there. And he's like, oh, wait, tell her what we did. So we'll get to that a little bit later. But something to think about. Lesson study, and I was just reading an article. Actually, we're doing some more research in this fall, but I was just reading an article yesterday about how it just talked about how the teachers felt they had stronger efficacy because they felt supported all the way through it. And my teachers that I did it with went to the principal afterwards and said, if you ever want us to learn something new or do something new in our classroom, do it this way. So something to think about. Lesson study, you can tweak it however you need, but anyway, okay. So we're gonna do what in the cards. So we're gonna now do a few more of those things. And I've got these, aren't these cool cards? My husband is the king of clearance, and he knew I used cards all the time. So he saw these on sale. I don't know what he paid for them, but anyway, he knew I'd like them. So here they are. Brought them all the way from Arizona just for you guys. Okay, so we are going to do this. So you're going to get out of your seats again, and this time we're going to count. We're going to do, if it's a heart, we're going to do jumping jacks. If it's toes, if it's diamonds, we're going to do toe touches. If it's spades, we're going to do squats. If it's clubs, we're going to do lunges. And we're going to do however many are, well, we're going to count by this number. Whatever number you get, you're going to count by. So if it's sevens or nines or whatever, we're going to count by that number. We're going to count by that number 10 times. So if it's sevens, we'll count by sevens until 70. Got that? Okay, get your math brains on. Who wants to pick a card? Show it to them. All right, sixes, and we're doing jumping jacks again. All right. We're gonna do until we get to 60. So we're gonna count by 6, 12, 18. Got it? Ready? So we're counting by sixes. We're counting by sixes until we get to 60. Okay, so you ready? So we've got 6, 12, 18, 24, 30, 36, 42, 48, 54, 60. Woo, nice job, guys. Okay, here's another one. Stay out of your seat, and you can. Who wants to pick? Sevens, a club, 7, and we're gonna do lunges, counting by sevens. Are you guys ready? Here we go. Okay. 7, 14, 21, 28, 35, 42, 49, 56, 63. Whoops, I missed that one. 70. All right, nice job. One more? Okay. 5 of diamonds. There we go. Toe touches. Ooh, you guys ready? Fives are fun. That's a good way to end, right? Okay. 5, yes. 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50. All right, nice job. Okay, so what are some things, if you're not a math person, what are some things you could do with this? Yeah, you could connect it to the unit. Here's some things that I wrote down, like however many steps, north, south, east, or west, and create a movement that happens in that part of the state. So if you had like 9 steps, and you said you had 9 steps, if you had 9 steps east in this, in Charlotte, 9 steps east, I don't know which, I know no idea where I am here. I'm actually pretty good in Phoenix, but I don't, anyway, you might be the ocean, right? So maybe they could be sailing or something. You know, you could think about 9 steps is not very many, but that's the right direction. I did vocabulary words also and thought that find ones that have that many syllables. So you could break them into syllables. Think about how many syllables are in it, like enunciation, right? And so enunciation, 5 syllables. So you'd probably put them up there and have them figured out that way, yeah.
Are
Well, and that's good too. You know, all of it's good, and that's great with Uno. I've used Uno a lot when I first started teaching too. So probably about the same time you first started teaching. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's good. What else did I put here? The numbers might represent steps. Oh, I also thought for science, I thought maybe a science experiment. And how many steps would you say there are in a science? Who are my science teachers? How many steps are in a science experiment? I asked my assistant about that. Anyway, Google told me that it would be define, make a hypothesis, gather data, analyze data, and draw conclusions. So there would be 5 steps. So you could think of, there's a lot of things that you do that have steps. So you could use, you know, numbers for steps. It's just thinking of a way to get them up and moving, right? And kind of getting them engaged. Okay. So here is, to your statement about, so we're just retrieving, rehearsing, and elaborating. But this is the thing, is that one research study showed that if you have a higher cognitive load when you're doing the exercise, just like you mentioned, it actually is better retention, right? Because we had to do 2 things at once. We had to do our movement and think about counting by 7s, which is not something I do every day. So, and I wasn't just multiplying by 7, but I was thinking about counting by 7s. So they showed that was the most notable increase in the prefrontal cortex, in the front of your brain. And then another study showed that using the brain during and after exercise can enhance neuron survival. Don't we want our neurons in our brains to survive? But so think about, you can do it. When we did this, we just did it for fun, get up and move. Uno, for fun, get up and move. But what we just did, we connected to content. So you can do both. So just think about how you can, you know, do those things. And it's worthwhile because they're going to remember things better. Okay, so we talked about, when we did the musical chairs, we talked about it making connections. So this is just a little, how often do we say, oh, I just connected the dots? Does that happen to you? Like halfway through, sometimes halfway through something, I'm like, oh, now I get it. Do your students do that? Like all the time, right? I put 2 and 2 together, I figured it out. The pieces are falling into place. It clicked. Well, the reason is because that's super valuable. So there's this Dr. Zoll from Case Western University, who also ran their teaching and learning. He was a biochemist. And so he had this student who was a really good student. She really wanted to do well, right? She had one concept she was having a really hard time figuring out, and she kept coming back to him, and she said, now is it this? Help me understand this. So it was a student who wanted to figure things out, right? And one day, I'm sorry, this is a sad story. I'm going to tell you that ahead of time. One day she went back to the dorm, and she saw these ducks floating around in the pond in front of her dorm. And she said, oh, I know what it is. And she went back the next day to Dr. Zoll, and she said, I got it. I understand it now. It's like when I was a kid, my brothers used to grab ducks, and they used to put them in a tub of water that had soap in it, and it pulled the oil from their skin, and they drowned. It's sad. I told you it was a sad story. So, and she goes, that's what it is, right? And he said, yeah, you've got it. And she went on to be a biochemist. So that one connection that she tried really, really hard to get. So when you make those connections like we made in the musical chairs, those kinds of connections can really make a difference on making it click for a student. So she found the right connection. So we're going to do something I call chat stations. And I have around the room, I'm going to give you a little information about it beforehand, but I have around the room a bunch of statements about connections, the value of helping students connect to their content. So I have actually 8 statements around the room, but I have 3 copies. So all the 1s are right here, all the 2s are right there, all the 3s are right there, all the 4s are right there, the 5s, the 6s, the 7s, and the 8s. So you get it, right? I want you to go to all 8 statements. I will play a little music when I want you to switch statements. But what you're going to do is you're going to get together with 2 or 3 people, and you're going to go to the statements. Now, here is some information I want to give you about that. When you go to the statement, when you get your group, decide on somebody who wants to read the statement. And the reason I say that, and if you have students, you might assign somebody to read the statement that you know is a good reader. So this is not, we don't want this to be about people being able to read, how fast they read the statement. We don't want kids to get caught up in that. We want somebody to go who's going to be the reader for the group, because you know they know how to read and they're comfortable and they like to read. So you can pick your groups that way. Be intentional about that. For you guys, just choose one person in your group, or you can alternate, I don't care. But that's a reason for you to do it with your kids. And then take a paper or your phone or something with you so you can kind of record, but you're going to go to each statement and you're going to say, you're going to read the statement out loud, and then you're going to think, how does this statement, how does it connect to my classroom? What does this mean? What am I thinking about how this connects with my teaching? And so when you do this with your kids, there's a lot of things you could do. You could put discussion questions that you're going to use about the novel you just read or you read a chapter of, and then you want them to discuss it with each other first, and then you can walk around the room and you can listen to what they're saying, and you're like, oh, they totally got that. Ooh, they're kind of confused about this. Whatever it is, and then you get back and you can discuss. And now when I discuss, I can call on Teresa specifically, because I know that she already had opportunity to share with somebody else. So her opinion is no longer, I'm not asking her to go out there, I'm asking her group. My group said, so that kind of a thing can happen. So can you guys get in groups of 3 or so by yourself, you think? Okay. So I'm going to have you stand up. Now, here's the other thing. I put 3 sets around the room, so you can, there should be more than enough statements, so you can just walk to whatever ones you know that you have 8 to go to all together. Okay? Go ahead and go. So let's talk about chat stations, and let's think about, what do you need to do? What do you need to prepare for chat stations? Maybe we start backwards planning, right? What can you use it for? What do you think you're going to, what subject would you use it for?
All subjects.
Any subject, yeah. You can use it for any subject. So think personally of something you teach and how you could use it. You can use it to ask questions. You can use it to have kids match things up. You can use it to, like this, just to provide some direct instruction. If your students are old enough to read like this, yeah.
I was thinking as students are learning.
So as a learner, think about this. What's the difference between, it's the beginning of a unit, you show people those, you show your students that, or you have it on the walls like this and they go around. What is the difference? Your information is good and all your information is the same, but what's the difference between having it on the wall? What did it do for you as a learner to go there and talk about it with people?
Makes you draw it out.
Versus?
Makes you draw it out. You can be more curious about what's there instead of just shown to you. You're engaging with it first and you're pulling it out.
And some students do engage. I mean, I'm not saying some students do engage when you're presenting it.
Right.
But how many of you were involved in, how many students were involved in this one? Everybody. Everybody.
I was gonna say, I think it helps lower the stakes of
Yeah.
someone who's like doesn't want to share in front of the whole class.
Right.
It lowers their stakes so that they're just like with 1 or 2 other people, and they'll be able to talk and share their feelings, and that's good for me too, because I walk around and I'm like, okay, like this helps you share your thoughts too.
Right, right.
It also helps with perspective, because if you have 3 people in a group and everybody reads the same thing but gets something different out of it, it helps you now to have more than one perspective.
Right, right. So I always ask my pre-service teachers, I have something I call secret sauce. Someone I worked with named it secret sauce. But I ask them, if I look at a lesson, I say, tell me it's emotional. So tell me, was there an emotional connection? How did you feel? How did you feel walking around talking with people in your group? How would students feel walking around and looking at something and discussing it with their peers? Usually they feel comfortable. Yeah.
Maybe independent.
Independent, yeah, because it's like usually they have to sit in a group of 30, but they get to be with just a group of 2 or 3.
But also included.
And included, everybody's included in that situation. And it's safe, we talked about that already.
It helps the students that just want to talk get an opportunity to talk.
Yeah, it does help helps them get an opportunity to talk, but also, so what I do sometimes with students is I'm like, okay, just which you guys have all done this, right? Student number 1 talks, stop. Student number 2 talks. if you have a real problem with people who like to talk too much. So I say, so is it fun is my first question. How many people are involved is my second question. So that's your behavioral engagement. We know that statistically, 5 students answer 95% of the questions in a class. You guys know that unless there's another way you can get them involved or you have a slightly different classroom, but that's the statistics. So how many students were involved? All of you were involved. Everyone in the classroom was involved. And then this last one is, I would ask them is, what's your level of blooms? So how much are you thinking? Are you applying? You guys, in your situation, I asked you to apply it. And there's reason for all levels of blooms, right? Sometimes they just need to know the knowledge. You know, we talked about that. But sometimes they can go into a deeper conversation with it in that situation. And then as a teacher, what can you do while people are, yeah, go ahead.
Well, I noticed.
Yeah, and the product, and they could just talk. That could be what we do. You just talk, or you can ask for a product afterwards, which I love that. And yeah, you can do whatever you want, whatever is comfortable for you. So, and everyone was involved. There's one other thing I was thinking about when we were doing this, but I think that what was I going to ask? So time. I was going to talk about time. Our elephant in the room, right? And some of it is just somebody repeating what somebody else, but somebody else did a new study, you know. So it becomes more current by that. Yeah, but that's right because times change, things happen, and changes are made because of that. So I want you to think. First, I want to talk about you guys as teachers walking around when your students are doing that. What does that do for you, and what comes next in your classroom? What can you do as you're walking around? You can guide conversation. You can talk to people, help them stay on track. You can make sure you're on track, right? You do high school. And you can misconceptions. You can help correct misconceptions, yeah. And formative assessment, I heard, yeah. So formative assessment, and then you can also know what you need to spend time on and what you don't need to spend time on. So for you yourself, you're like, hey, they've totally got that, and I can even call someone out. And I can say, Jay, can you tell us, I heard what you said about that statement. Tell us what you said. So you can call out your students, and especially, you know, some of your students that might be shy. You can call them out, and you can ask them to share something you heard them say that was really good. In that situation, I'd probably say, Jay, I'm going to ask you to repeat that so that you would be prepared, you know, but it helps. We all need that. We all need that. So that, yeah, so that's where really specific instruction, which I forgot to put up for you guys, but I had specific instruction on here, but I didn't put it up until after I told you. But anyway, so like, you know, that's what we know for our kids with autism, that we need to make sure that they have, and all kids, right? Even us, everybody, good specific instruction is really going to help them know what they're going to do. And your instruction may not be exactly the same as this, but it'll be whatever is good, and probably not as wordy as this for your students, but it would be something that you could definitely use. Okay, so what do you need to do to prepare? So we talked about how you're going to use it. We talked about the benefits of it. What do you need to do? Is it more time consuming? Is it less time consuming? Yeah, cost benefit.
Time management.
Yeah. Do you think they're going to have better retention? So if you read a chapter in a book and you're going to discuss it, so would it be beneficial to do this ahead of time? Would it save you time? Yeah, they do remember it. They make those connections. So what do you need to do as a teacher to prepare? What do you need to do if you're going to do this in your classroom? And remember, at the end of tomorrow, you guys are all going to do something. So be thinking about that.
Make statements, make questions.
Make statements, make questions.
Like if I was doing work.
Right. So and you're in that high school perspective too, right? You're going to have kids who are going to be like, yeah, I'm not going to do that. That's fine. Let me just give you the sheet, you know, and you're going to write your own reflection on each one of these things or whatever it is that you want them to do. And they may choose to do it by themselves. Some kids are like that they want to do it by themselves. Is this something you totally think you can do? By the way, I always tell my students, don't do this in your class, because if you're doing this and somebody feels like this, they're not going to do it. So I always tell them, do it right here, because then if you like, I can tell you how I actually feel, and that gives me a better perspective. And it's funny because someone came to our university and did some professional development last fall, and one of my instructors, he told me, he goes, yeah, I love this. I used it in my class. And so I said, well, actually, you might want to just kind of do it like this. And now we're talking college students, right? And he said, I did that, and after class, there were like 3 students that I saw, they went like this. They didn't get it. Everybody else was like this. And he goes, so I went and talked to them afterwards and kind of helped them understand. But so even at the college level, and especially at the college level, they're going, yeah, oh, you got me too. I got it too. But I really have no idea what you're talking about. So it does, that's just my little tidbit. Okay, we talked briefly about, who talked to me about removing the chairs for musical chairs? We talked about it briefly. Yeah, okay. So when I did musical chairs, I always actually did musical chairs and removed one chair, only one chair the whole time. So if I have 20 kids in the class, I have 19 chairs. And so I ask the question, and then the person who's left standing shares their point of view. So like one of the ones I had up there was, how many of you have ever fallen asleep in a movie? So I shared with you guys, I've fallen asleep in lots of movies at home. My husband will attest to that. But, that one person talks. Now, here's what happened with my students. They fought not to sit down because they all wanted to share. So what I would do is, they would be like, oh, you got it, oh, shoot, And so what I started doing was saying, I'd keep a list, and I'd say 5 people can share. And then I'd just check them off, and then I would do 5 more people could share, So college students, on the other hand, they're more likely to slip into the seat and not, but they still shared. And again, I would never make someone share if they're not comfortable sharing. I never, don't have to. If you didn't get to sit down and you don't want to tell me, don't tell me. I don't care. We'll let somebody else share, or else I'll share something. But that's how I actually ran it, because that made it a little, with the music, it made it a little more competitive, which added this little kind of fun little part to it. We talked about this. And so we're going to do this squats, lunges, and phonemes. So on the middle of your table are some articles I've written, and one of them is squats, lunges, and phonemes. But we're going to do it in a bunch of different ways. We would not do it like this, where there's all different people doing different things, but we are going to do it. I will show you how to do it, first of all, with that, and then we'll talk about other ways we can do it. Okay, so you're going to get up again. And this is not going to be random like the other one. You're going to get to choose. But we're going to think of a 1-syllable word. So we can stand up and you can do a 1-syllable word for me. Who wants to give me a 1-syllable word? Dog. Okay. How many sounds do you hear in dog? 3. They are, what are they? Good. Okay, so we're going to get down really low. And we're going to squat down and we're going to go d-og. Ready? D-og. Blend it. Dog. Okay, so now what I want you to do is I want you to change the d for an o and tell me what the new word is. O-og. Log. All right, good job. Now I want you to change the ah to an a. Are you ready? Lag. Lag. What does lag mean? Are your little kids going to know what lag means? No, what does lag mean? Have you ever been for a walk with some friends and one of your friends is way back there? They're lagging. We call them, they lag behind. They're lagging behind. Okay, so let's do another 1-syllable word. Hot. Hot? Okay, we're going to do push-ups for this one. You guys ready? Here we go. Okay, so we're going to get down really low and we're going to go hot. Ready? Blend it. Hot. Okay, you can do it on your desk. If you want to, you can do it right here. You can go hot. Hot. Okay, now we're going to change. What should we change? The ah to ah. Okay, so we're going to change the ah to ah. So ready? At. Blend it. Hat. Okay. One more. Hat. What should we change? The C. The to a k. Ready? Change the to a k. Ready? K. At. Blend it. Cat. All right. I remember sitting in one of my courses when I was working on my doctorate, and I was like, man, why are my arms so sore? And I told my husband that, and he's like, no. I'm like, seriously, it does get to you. So when I would do this with my students, I actually would put on the board squats, lunges, jumping jack, whatever I did, and then I would check them off and say, okay, we're only doing push-ups once, a time. So, because again, my 6th grade boys love that. Okay, so now let's just do it. What if you have high school kids? We're not going to do phonemic awareness, right? That was phonemic awareness. So we're going to do, but it is helpful to break words, large words into syllables, because if we think of like enunciation, they probably would say enunciation. They kind of like that middle part. I remember I was teaching a reading class to somebody who taught high school honors history. And I said, it was reading, right? I said, you've got to break your words into syllables, and you've got to teach your students to do it into syllables. And she said, I can't do that. These are honors high school students. I said, tell them your college professor said you have to do it. And so you just do it because they said. Well, 2 things happened. At the end of the class, she said, you know what? My students are enunciating the words correctly now. And they didn't used to. She goes, and my teacher coach came in when I was doing it and said everybody should be doing this in high school. So I was like, thank goodness the teacher coach agreed with me. But anyway, so you can do it. And you have a few minutes. You're talking about like having one movement thing. You come in and you want to do some specific steps, and then you want to do something movement-wise, and then you get back to your instruction. That's going to get the blood flowing to their brain. So let's do a vocabulary word, and I'll let you guys choose what movement you want to do with it. Give me a high school vocabulary word that's multisyllabic.
Cumpleaños.
Oh, yeah, okay. Now you're going to keep me on this one, so this is good for me.
Yeah?
Yeah, because I don't speak Spanish.
All right.
Cumpleaños. Okay, cumpleaños. Okay, that's good for me. What do you want to do?
Seems like a happy event, so how about we all burst out of a big cake or something?
So what if we just do it like this? You want to do it like this? Okay, so we go, cumpleaños. Okay, up, everybody, ready? We're all going to be speaking Spanish when we're done. Ready? Okay, here we go. Cumpleaños. Ooh, I like it. Cumpleaños. 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 Ooh, nice job. Okay, who else wants to give me a high school word? Or junior high? Middle school, I'm sorry, I always think of junior high. Multisyllabic word that you use. Ethiopia. How would you like to do it? We can do dips. You guys ready? We can do dips like this. Ready? You can do it. You can all do it. That table won't break. Ethiopia. Oh, you got to start really low. You got to Ethiopia. One more time. Ethiopia. Now blend it. Ethiopia. Ooh, nice. Okay, now here's another way we can use it. What about if we do it for spelling? Especially words that are hard to read, so have digraphs in them and trigraphs. Cough. Okay, yeah, all the theirs. Ooh, yeah. Cough. How are the sounds you hear in cough? K, ah, f. Okay, how do you want to do those? Let's do them first.
Squats.
Okay, ready? F. Cough. Okay, k, spelled with a C. Ah, spelled with a F, spelled with a GH. So C-O-U-G-H. Cough. All right. Who can give me another spelling one? Any thoughts? Or vocabulary word, whatever you want to do. Said. Oh, said. That's a good one because it's a heart word, right? Okay, so how should we do said? You want to do it? So I even do it like, you can do this, but it's not going to give you a lot of movement. S-ed, 3 sounds. S-ed, Said. What's the first sound you hear in said? How's it spelled? S. What's the second sound you hear in said? Spelled A-I. That's our heart part. We have to remember that by heart. What's the last sound you hear in said? D. And spelled with a D. Good. So we talked about movement and time. We talked about how it saves time. So what I'm going to do now is I have a ton of statements that come from research about movement and learning. So what I'm going to do is you guys are going to get into some groups, and we're going to do something. So here's what research says. We're going to do something called circling your thoughts. Now, I do this in the classroom like this. You can put, I use hula hoops. I have lots of hula hoops. So you can use hula hoops in your classroom, but I didn't really know how I would bring hula hoops on the plane. So I have plates for you guys. And you get to take home the extra plates. Anyone who wants our plates, you can take home. I ordered them through Amazon, so I would have them here. But I have these nice little plates like this, and I have some little research statements. Now with students, I would put out whatever my circles and let them, maybe if it's a process, like we talked about the scientific process, maybe we would, what things might happen, they'd have to try and figure out where it went in that process. You could think about if you had a sentence and you had an underlined word, what part of the sentence is that? And they could be moving it around and putting it in the circle. So we're going to do it a little different. I'm going to give you guys plates. First, I'm going to divide you into groups. Then I'm going to give you plates, and I'm going to give you research statements. And your group is going to read through those research statements, and you are going to categorize them any way you want. There's no right or wrong answer, but you have to be prepared to tell us what your answer is, how you categorize them. Does that make sense? Can someone repeat what you're going to do? Who can repeat what you're going to do?
Put us in groups.
Yep.
Give us plates with research statements.
I'm going to give you two things, plates and research. As long as you can defend it. Yep. Yep, any way you want. Sound good? Okay, we're going to use our cards again. I don't know. I think it should work out. You know, in your class, you always know how many students you have. But anyway, I'm going to let you, rather than walk around to each table, because that'll take time, come on up and grab a card. Grab a card, everybody. Come up and grab a card. All right. All right, well, I am actually very impressed that you guys came up with one that was in the top 3 for all of you guys when you were done. So, but lots of good statements, right? Okay, give yourselves a round of applause. Okay, go back to your seats. Okay, so what did these activities do for you as a learner? What would it do for your students? They have to really think and decide, and again, read them all, and start thinking and really think about and process how important it is. Now, you could do all kinds of different things. You guys, obviously, I wanted to give you something that was going to be different and new for you. Maybe not necessarily totally new, but something would be different for you. It increases their interest sometimes too, just because it's a little bit competitive, right? Yeah. So, but it's competitive in a way that nobody really can lose. So we're not really saying who's the fastest or who's the strongest, but we're just, and not even who's the best student. You're just competitive in the fact that I like this one best. I think this is the best. I don't know why, but I like it best. Yeah, what else did it do for you as a learner? What will it do for your students? Yeah, it forces them to talk to many, and we took it from small, to a little bit bigger and a little bit bigger, which kind of helps too, and so people can get lost in that when you get bigger. But yeah, it does force them to communicate with others. And people do get invested in that. So they have the accountability in their small group. All students are engaged. And then it's like, but this is the best. Like, ours is the best. Ours is the best. But it makes them really think about it and have to talk about, when kids are actually doing it in class, they have to talk about all the different reasons why it's the best. Would you give their students this many statements? No. I just couldn't really draw the line. So I was like, oh, this is a good one. I actually left some out. But there are just like so many good ones that I thought, well, and I knew a lot of them were going to kind of be repetitious, but it's good to see that too, right? So that you know that more than one person is saying that same thing. And some people say it better than others, and it might hit you differently. Any other thoughts on it? So do we all have the same questions? You all had the same ones. Mm-hmm. Okay, so what do you need to do to plan for this? No. What do you need to do to prepare? You got to make strips. If you're going to do that, if you're going to do this in particular, you got to make strips. Copy it off in the copy machine. That's what I did. The good old-fashioned paper cutter. That. Gather your supplies. So gather your statements, right? Or gather your whatever it is you're going to have them analyze. What is the most important animal in the ocean? You know, I don't know. I mean, fish in the ocean. What's the most important? Why? You know, so that whatever they're studying. So think about, connect it to their content. But and then you need to get stuff, and you need to cut it up. But it doesn't take a really long time. And if you're smarter than me, because I don't do this, I haven't done this, but you'll laminate it and use it the next year too, and the year after that, and the year after that, until I'm just telling you just throw it away, because I'll just recreate it. But I don't teach the same thing all the time over and over again. Yeah. Okay, and it will help your students what? What will it help your students do? Take accountability, yeah, and take ownership, right? Yeah. Sort. Categorize. You can do this on lots of different levels. You know, I mean, it can be sorting, categorizing, simpler things. It can be more complex things depending on where your students are at and what your content is. So you can kind of vary the level. Any other thoughts?
You could even do this with like characters in a novel. Like assign every group what are the character traits of this character, and then what was most important for their role as a character. Or
Yeah,
role
yeah.
And it would be a lot simpler, but
And
because it depends on the novel.
At the end of the novel too, you can have who's your favorite and why, and you have to then justify what happened or who was even your favorite in that chapter. You know, what did they do that made them your favorite and why? So it can be short and simple, but it just makes them think. So even if you can still do this with hula hoops on the floor for the first part, where you can kind of have them put the characters in different, put behavior traits and put the characters into different areas where they might be, you know, there might be somebody in several different areas, and you can kind of go back and review. It's a way you could review on that. So think about that, and then just getting them up and chatting with each other, moving across the room. So truth or dare, or truth or dare to move. I want you to tell me valuable. Movement is valuable, or movement is a waste of time. Get up. You've had a lot more sitting this time.
Sorry, which way? I guess everyone's going this way.
Valuable up here, waste of time in the back. Is that not what I said?
That's what you said, yeah.
Okay.
So we're all here for our second photo.
Look at this. You guys are like moving closer.
Waste of time is the front.
Waste of time is the back.
Waste of time.
Movement is a waste of time. Go in the back.
Entire session.
I'm leaving. Okay. All right. Good job, you guys. So just so you can see, you can teach and move at the same time and accomplish really good things. So we're going to continue to do that. But I believe they're bringing in food, in 4 minutes. So we'll let you guys have a seat. Let me see if I have what I have next. Anything? Oh, here we go. This is just another statement, and I have them throughout. But physically active academic lessons have the potential to increase students' physical activity levels during the day without compromising academic time. And I think that if you can just help the teachers at your school know that they can do it. The teachers that I worked with said the one thing that they really liked was that they could do them both at the same time. They could move and learn at the same time. And I always say that I came into some of this brain. So some of you were here last year for Brian Harris. And Brian and I have known each other for years. And I always say he came in the front door. He said, I want to learn about brain research. And he learned about brain research, and he went from there. I came in the back door. I had kids who could not sit still. And I said, I've got to use their bodies. Like, there's nothing I can do but use their bodies. So I've got to figure out how to do it. So I did that. And then when I felt like I didn't really want to get my doctorate, but I was like, okay, I want to learn a little bit more about this. And so when I went in to get my doctorate, that's what I decided to study. And then I was like, oh, I love the fact that the brain, all of this research supports what I've seen in my classroom. So to know that it's research-based, I just did it really just for salvation, to enjoy my classes. I mean, I loved it, but, to really help them learn. So anyway, it makes a big difference. Definitely worth the time. And now is break time, and you guys should be getting a treat. Treats should be there, I think. They told me they're going to be there at 2:30. You guys ready to do some more? You got some fuel and you're ready? I know the fuel makes you go like this, but that's okay. I'm glad that you got some fuel. So we're going to move on to something. You can see this is from my office, literally. See the little Easter eggs in my office? So some of you guys saw me putting Easter eggs out. I love to use Easter eggs. They are super cheap. I always get them after Easter, and they're like super cheap. And so I don't pay much for them. But I didn't want to bring them with me because I was really determined not to have a carry-on or not to check a bag. And so Amazon actually did me well. I had it sent to the first place we stayed. So I have Easter eggs all over. So your job is to get out of your seat and find an Easter egg. Don't lean over and find the one closest to you, but grab an Easter egg. Get out of your seat and find an Easter egg. Just one is all you need.
Is there enough for everyone?
Yeah, there's enough for everyone. There's going to be extras. Okay, so inside your egg, you have a vocabulary word. And it's going to you're going to probably connect it to movement. So take a look. If you don't like your word, kind of look it up, or maybe trade somebody. That's okay. I don't care. But you're going to be thinking about it's not in Spanish, it's in English, but you could tell us the Spanish version of it. Okay, if you don't know it, you can find out what it is, look it up, or trade with another person or ask someone, doesn't matter.
Oh, okay, shucks.
Is
Okay.
there another egg?
There's more eggs. There's a bunch right there. Does anyone still need an egg?
And am I supposed to have a partner?
No.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. So you guys have your eggs. You know your word. You're pretty confident in what it is. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to connect for learning. So what you're going to do is this should have come in steps, sorry, but it's too much information at once. But you take your word, and you are going to take your word, and you are going to find someone that you can connect your word to their word. So you're going to go to them, and you're going to say, oh, so, my word dog connects with your word cat because they're both pets with 4 legs. Nobody has dog and cat. Or my word bird connects with your word dog because birds and dogs can both be pets. So they have to connect somehow. So walk around and find a partner. And we're going to listen to the same crazy music. Okay, so we divided it into 2 groups. We're going to do something that I call the vocabulary vine. So some of this is how many students you have in your class, right? If you have 37 students in your class, 36 students in your class, it makes an even 4. But if you have something like that, then when you do the 2, the connect 4, then it's easier to do with a bigger group because everybody's moving. If you have a smaller group, then you might want to do it this way, where you're just doing a vocabulary vine. And so we're going to do a vine, and I'm going to say, let's go ahead and have you guys move kind of to the outside edge. You guys can move to the outside edge over there too. We're going to let them show you how it's done, and then you're going to show them how it can be done again. Okay? Now, the reason that I split you up is because you should have the same words. If we used all the eggs, you would all have the same words, just different color. And I want you guys to think different than what they do. But what you're going to do is one person is going to say, this is my word, and I'm going to start with my word, and my word is dog. Dog is a 4-legged animal that can be a pet. And so then someone will come and connect to me and say, oh, that's where we're going to go to cat again, right? Cat, I'm going to connect. So it's a vine. So a vine, like you can see there, that's one where I did it on a whiteboard with some students. And so You just connect. It can come off. You can have, the vine can go all kinds of ways. It can go, several people can come off of one word, or you can connect to the next word. And you get to choose when you go up and connect. Yeah, just make those connections. Because when you did this, when you thought about, when you were a participant in this, how did you think about the words? Did you just give me a definition of them? You had to connect them. You had to think beyond and make a connection. Does that connect to your background knowledge? Did we find out that it was valuable to connect to your background knowledge? Yeah, you could have sticky notes on your table, and they could do it on the wall behind and explain theirs. The way that I've done it, the one that I had there was I just had sticky notes by the door. They come in, they get a sticky note, and then that's a real quick activity to do at the beginning, and we just created the vine on a whiteboard. So yeah, there's lots of different ways you can do it. So and we'll talk about that, but that's great to put them at the table and just have them figure it out themselves. A group of each group, and they could defend their design. Yeah, so they could do both at the same time. What the order is, the sequence is, and how they connect to each other. What happened that caused the next event to happen. I like that. Yeah, so they have a task. In a way, they have to sort them, but the other people have to figure it out. It's a mystery. Mysteries are always fun. So here's some ways to do it. You can create a floor diagram, so they can just they can do it on the floor. You can connect for the human vocabulary vine, which is what we did, but you could do it on your whiteboard, or they could do it on, if they sit at tables, they could do it in their table groups, or if you want to put them in groups, they could just put it on the wall behind them. You can use pictures and letters, capital, lowercase, put in alphabetical order. And then there's even a virtual, here's a virtual one. One of my students sent this to me during COVID. And she's like, I did vocabulary vine on Jamboard, which I'm so sad that there is no longer Jamboard. But she did this with her students on Jamboard. And so they had to write they had to write the terms, and then they had to write what the connection was. But it gave them an opportunity. So they could do that. And as you know, on Jamboard, you could do that because several students could be working on it at one time. Yes? It's usually vocabulary words that I'm teaching that I do it with. But if you think about it, if you're talking in like social studies, they're pretty much all going to start to connect. There's ways that they can connect. You have to think about it a little deeper to see if there are connections. But generally speaking, once you start learning the vocabulary, you're expanding that vocabulary, right? So this gives you another reason to retrieve vocabulary that you've taught before and have them continue to review it and elaborate on it by connecting to new things that they're learning. It's going to depend on what your objective is going to be for it, right? So like, what do you want to know about it? If you want them to be able to retell the story or retell parts of the story, you might be putting different scenes that happen in there. If you want to talk about character traits, then you might put some words about the characters and traits about the characters that are in there. Does that make sense? So it depends on what your objective is for that particular thing. Yeah. Is it hard to prepare for this? Initially thinking about it. Does it take a lot of time? Yeah.
How can you facilitate it from, like, if you notice that students aren't making the connections naturally, how can you facilitate it with them still doing the work?
Yeah, I think coming alongside them and just kind of helping them think through their word, talking about them with a word just to help them. Maybe one way that you can connect it is, if you think about the fMRI, it shows all the parts of the brain. Are there any other parts of the brain that are talked about here? Kind of give them some, ask them some questions to help them think about it. Yeah.
Sorry, just starting to introduce it, because for first grade, this might be a lot of abstract, so just to introduce.
So for first grade, I would do something like what I talk about with dogs and cats.
Okay.
Do it really simple, because that's going to help them. Like, I know what a dog is, I know what a cat is. You might say, you might have some zoo animals, and you could say, I've got a tiger. A tiger is a kind of a cat, but it's a zoo animal, not a pet. So, an elephant is a zoo animal too, so I can connect an elephant to a tiger. And I would prep them for some of that. We're talking about animals, and where do we see these animals? We see them in the zoo, or we see them in the forest, or we see them, in the woods, or the woods and forests, the same thing. We see them, their pet that we have.
Tame and wild, you could do, domesticated, tame.
Right, tame and wild, and so just think about some things like that, some categorization. Seasons, yep. Yeah. Make it things that they know really well, and then you can expand from there. Thinking about early elementary, we talked a little bit about just making it simple, really simple at the beginning, so we can help kids just really understand and know what they're talking about. Middle elementary, we've talked about a few ideas. Any other ideas for middle elementary? I'm just saying, you guys are the ones who have a wealth of knowledge. Middle school, I talked to several people who are middle school teachers. Do you think your students could do it? Do you think they would enjoy it? So what are we doing with this? We talked about elaborate, retrieval, retention. What are we doing? All of it. We're elaborating on them, right? You're thinking about them more and in different ways and different things, and you're also retrieving information that you've had. Yeah, and it's going to help you. It's going to help you retain it. Okay. So I want you to write down one way that you can use this in your classroom. So think about it and be intentional. Okay. So just write these down. Prepare, I need to. When planning, I need to think about. It'll help my students. It might work when I teach. And we've talked about a lot of those things. So just if you quickly write something like that down on your paper. Yeah, I like that because we want to make sure that we're accommodating all the students. We talked about the ones who struggle, but we didn't talk about the kids who are more gifted or have skills in that area. Good. Okay. So here is some stuff that we've done some of this stuff, looked at some of this stuff. We talked about, we did musical chairs and stand up if. I'm going to click on this milling to music. This is something I recently saw, got an email on. You may have seen it, but it's pretty cool.
We are at a sophisticated party, and you're milling around. You're saying hello.
The milling to music activity is a great one for brainstorming. It allows students that time to think about the subject, their own background knowledge. It allows them to have a personal opinion. And when we've been able to talk out the ideas in advance, when they set to writing, they're not staring at a blank page. They already have those ideas in their head. The students pretend that they are at a sophisticated party, and we turn on some music and they walk around. When the music stops, I ask them to get with an elbow partner, so someone who's close by them. Then I would give them a little question to talk about.
Okay, face your partner. Now ask your partner, what is it about winter that you really like?
I like sledding. What is it about, what do you like about winter?
I like building snowmen.
I do this 5 times maybe throughout the process, and each question is a little bit more thoughtful.
Okay, so what is something in winter that really is a pet peeve?
Freezing toes and freezing pants while skiing. Oh yeah. I love skiing. It's just I don't like when you get cold. Same, but with skating.
We're working on their socialization skills, and it gets them thinking along the theme. They benefit so much from orally expressing their ideas at the same time as moving their bodies, so that when I actually do ask them for 10 minutes of focused writing, they're totally ready for it. It allows them a lot of success when they've done all of that brainstorming work.
What did you think of that? besides the fact that the kids were so cute.
That's so doable and so easy and such a nice way to set them up for success when they sit down.
Yeah.
An empty page.
Yeah, connecting to background knowledge, but they're doing it with each other. And it's very simple. I like the sophisticated party because then at least you're not like, they're at least they're more controlled in doing it, you know? Because they have to be sophisticated. Yeah, we're waving like this, yeah.
The music connects the right or left brain to the other side. The musical connection.
Yeah, the music connection is great.
Sustaining the conversation is something that, it's harder and harder for the kids to do, and they need more practice and opportunity for that. So the back and forth and the give and take and the listening really covers all bases.
Yeah. Yeah, kids are having a hard, they do less, there's less conversation. We talked about that in one of the groups, basically how kids are not talking to parents, they're spending time on screens, and so the more we can have them off of the screens and focusing on things, the better. Okay, so we did chat stations. What was that? We walked around the room, and there was stuff on the wall, and that gave you some content. I gave you content with it. You can do questions. You can do matching things. We did vote with your feet. That was really quick. What was the vote with your feet? Well, we did do that, but we actually went to after we did chat stations, you went to the one that was your favorite. Yeah. So that gave you ownership of that. It helped you think about, it gives you a commitment to it and to talk to other people who think of the same thing. We did vocabulary, Vine, Connect 4, same thing. We did part of triangle, circle, square. We just didn't do the square, so we'll do the square next. Gypsy geography, just another thing where you we're going to talk about kids, throw things out, so throw something out to them, and they might say they're going to do a movement of something that relates to the story, or the geography-wise, they would say, if I go, like we talked about earlier, if I go up north, I can go like this, and I'm skiing down the slopes, so having them just think about other things that maybe here, when do you talk about your state? What grade do you teach about the state of North Carolina? Fourth grade. So you can talk about the state, or you can talk about the United States, or you can talk about a certain country that you're studying, but just thinking about the different directions, and they can move that direction and do some sort of movement. Truth or dare to move, that's what we did. True or false, just dare to, we move to one side or the other. Squats, lunges, phonemes. Yeah. We did the push-ups, and we did it with vocabulary. We did it with spelling. We did it with phonemes. It's really good for Spanish. It'd be really good for me to do that in Spanish a lot to help me learn. I wish I would have learned Spanish. Rock, paper, math, we're going to do that. Scene stopper, kind of the same kind of thing where they just kind of get crazy and then they stop and they're going to say what's happening in the story, what connection they can make to a story they've read, just to give them the chance to kind of move. We'll do counting change really quick. So we're going to count by 25 and everybody sits down when they get to $1. So everybody's going to stand up for a second. We are going to go down this way and up this way and down this way. And we're going to go 25, 50, 75, $1. Okay, 125, 150, 175, $2. And so you sit down if you're $1. Okay, so stand up. Woo! Can you think of anything else you could do that? I mean, that's just kind of fun for counting change. It can be a real quick review for kids. It's not as hard in this. I mean, it's harder in this where we have circle tables. Fractions would be good. You can do with fractions. Counting by tens and stopping when you get to 100. Yeah, so, and it didn't take very long, but it kind of makes you think, and everybody's kind of engaged to see who ends up being last. Okay. Let's see. It's in the cards. We did that when we did the jumping jacks, but you can do whatever you want with that, but that's just where you're basically counting by 2s or counting by 5s or 9s or 7s, as we chose some good ones. Circling your thoughts, we did that, right, where we did all the circles, and we did it with our plates, which you guys can take these plates. Anyone who wants paper plates, please take these home with you. But just thinking about that way to organize things. we're going to do follow the leader later and conga line later. We did the clue me in. I'll tell you, Easter eggs, I don't care what you do. I don't care what you put in Easter eggs. They love it. You know, I mean, students would walk in the room and say, are we going to look for eggs today? You know, so you can just put them around your room and you can put anything you want in there. If you want to practice your spelling words, just put pictures of your spelling words because they know what they are. Put them inside the Easter eggs, put them around the room. They can grab the Easter eggs. They love it because it's an unknown thing. You can put definitions of vocabulary words, you know, and they can grab them. And even my older students, even my older students love them. So all ages seem to love. There's something about what's in there. It's an inquiry piece. So, yeah. Okay. Vocabulary graffiti, you guys have probably seen this before. Just even if you have kids, just run up on the board and they just write down a word. Everybody runs up and writes a word down. Once everybody's done that, then you go up and you erase the word and tell what it means. And then another student goes up and erases a word and tells what it means. And another student goes up and erases a word and tells what it means. So they put the words up there from their vocabulary that they've had that school year, and then the people have to define it when they pull it down. Super.
Does the same person? Sorry.
No, the same person does not take it down.
So it's just you get the whole graffiti wall.
You get
and
a
then you pick sticks, and somebody goes and they pick whatever word they want. They define it and erase it.
Yep. Yep. So it's just a really quick review. So I have these big dice that I actually had somebody make for me that have slots in them that I will put, if I'm going to give students an assignment, I will put in the side that they have to create something. Maybe they're going to talk about a culture, right? So they have some countries that we've studied, so the countries will go in one dice. And then on the other dice, it might be something about what's happening in the school system or what happens in the family. And so then I roll it, and then they have to, that's how they find out what they have to write about or what they have to explain or teach about or create their project on. So it kind of makes it a random way to do it. But you've probably seen there's a lot of dice activities where you just roll the dice and you have to do something different. It just adding that piece, just like the playing cards, it's just a random thing, but you could say, okay, if you get a 6, you're going to do jumping jacks. Or, you know, or if you get a 6, you're going to move to the other side of the room and you have to find a partner on the other side of the room. It doesn't matter what it is. You can have your dice and you can label what's going to happen with each one of the numbers, and then they just roll. And you can get people partnered up that way, but you can do a lot of activities that way. So just think about that part of it. And so I want to put in here, and this leads perfectly into the last thing that we have, which is the square, which we didn't finish. And you can choose to get up now. I know it's the end of the day, which is all the more reason why you should get up. But you don't have to get up. If you want to get up, though, and share, I want something that you did today, and this will give us some other ideas, too, because maybe something we did today, we've had a lot of you share things that you do, and that's what I think is the beautiful thing about teaching teachers, is that you guys came with so many years of experience. So you guys have done a lot of things. So let's just take a minute to think about something that squared with what we did today, or another idea that you have that you want to share with the other people in the classroom. In the room. It's a classroom. It's always a classroom, right? So the people who are standing up at the square could be the first to go because they had the square. Yes?